Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on another MPH video, Motoe Performance and Health. I'm your host, David Pingree. We got Robb Beams here.
Thanks, buddy.
To provide the professional expertise.
Glad to be here.
So the topic today is Bio-Identical Hormone Replacement Therapy. At least out here, and at least in the worlds I work in the fire service, and I think middle-aged men, it's very, very popular now. There's almost a drawer in the fire station refrigerator that says testosterone, and they just stack them up in there.
Yep.
Good practice or no? I've got a thyroid issue, so I'm on a hypothyroid medication as well. So I do a bioidentical replacement there. What's your thoughts on this? Testosterone decreases over time as you get older naturally, but there are ways to bring it back to a degree naturally.
Yeah.
Take me through your thoughts on this.
Well, for me, I'm always going to go the natural route. But you can't argue that there's always a place and a time for something like that. You could have somebody that was textbook, stayed load-bearing exercises, so testosterone was firing, had good sex drive, had good sexual relationship. Everything is firing on all 8 cylinders, and then it just naturally wanes. I don't really get caught up in this kind of like definitive percentage of drop-off. Somebody that's eating healthier, and you always have the two extremes. You could have the guy that's been eating healthy and doing everything correctly, as we just said, and it still drops. You never know what the way the body's going to go with it.
Yeah.
The idea that there's an alternative. I mean, who doesn't want to feel like they have better levels of energy? In regards to its role, I think it's been proven over and over again. There's so many people that are doing it now. There's nobody I've ever spoken to that says, I don't feel any better. It's people who do it. It's like, man, it's like second birth of life, right?
Yeah.
In every category under the sun. So I certainly don't judge those that have done it. You know what I mean? But how do you argue with the success of it? And I guess the more definitive topic point would be what would be the catalyst for it to go off in the first place. If you're overweight, you probably have the onset of type 2 diabetes. Nothing's firing correctly. So, you could kind of make that a rhetorical conversation over and over again. But I certainly think there's a role and a place for it. You can get into the ethical conversation about performance enhancing,
Well, and obviously at a professional level, you're dealing with people's careers. That's very, to me, more cut and dry.
Yep.
And I understand exactly what they're doing. But
Yep.
if you're a guy who races on the weekends and you're just trying to live your best life and be healthy.
Absolutely.
To me, I have to defer to you as a professional on what those things. Even HGH, I know guys that do that, although it's very, very expensive, but they'll say that is like miracle drug.
Absolutely, it is.
Is this, never mind the ethical side of it. If you're not racing professionally, I don't care. You know what I mean? Do what you want to do. But is that healthy long term? I mean, do we know?
We don't know. I mean, especially when you use the word synthetic, anything that's artificial like that, we're back to artificial ingredients. Can the body break it down? Can assimilate it? We don't know if you can imagine something's kind of going down the river and it's kind of backing up behind a rock and eventually it becomes a bigger issue. Is that going to have a long-term health ramification? We don't know. And the only thing, we're essentially walking around like guinea pigs. We won't know until we get some history under our belt with it. The one thing that I do think is interesting is, I don't know about you, but I'm still hyper competitive. I love to win, but I hate to lose worse. So it's frustrating to me to know that I'm bringing a butter knife to a gunfight, racing against somebody that's jacked up on this stuff. Not that I'm getting paid to do it. I do find it very interesting because if you go over to the triathlon side of things, the guys that are winning my age group now, they would have been top 5 in the pro class 15 years ago. So you start looking at that and you go, well, damn, I'm not into a tit for tat. I'm not into level playing fields. I'm not into everybody gets a trophy. But if I'm going to be running clean, and again, I don't judge anybody that has had to go down that route just for quality of life and all that. But man, it is a little frustrating because where does the beginning of the conversation start and where does the end of the conversation end?
Well, the fun thing about Moto, I think for bicycling or triathlons, it's a little more contentious because those directly produce results, right? And those synthetic drugs.
Yeah.
On a bike, you either still have the talent and the drive, or you don't.
Absolutely agree.
It's more about just being generally healthy.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I do think is interesting on the testosterone side, and because like I said, I work with a lot of guys who do this,
Sure.
and the normal, they'll say the normal range is, and I don't know the exact numbers,
just
but
X
it's
to
around
Y.
200 to 1,000. Well, that's a huge
That's a
range.
big range,
So what
yeah.
if I'm a guy, one guy might feel good at 300. That's his normal for his body, but another guy's might be 900.
That's right.
And so you're at 350 and the doc goes, oh no, you're set. You're in the normal range. Well, and there's been guys at my station that have to kind of go around these,
Stallmates, if you will.
well, to I don't want to say skirt the rules to get
absolutely.
it because they're like, I don't feel good.
That's right.
The fire service is a rough spot for it because we're not getting good sleep.
That's right.
Diet sometimes, fire stations a lot of meat.
Sure. Yeah.
Meat and bread and potatoes.
Yeah.
So there, you can tell it's definitely, and we're exposed to a lot of crappy chemicals and stuff that is drawing all of those out of your body, right? So anyway, there's a need for it there. But I just find it interesting that, Western medicine doesn't like it. You go to your doctor and they'll say, no, it causes cancer. We can't do that. We don't know.
That's right.
And they'll prescribe you their pills.
That's right. I was going to say,
Right?
you just have to get to their agendas, what they're trying to change the conversation to.
So that makes it very hard to understand it.
Well, it's very frustrating for ourselves as listeners and just racers ourselves when you don't feel good and you're trying to convince somebody of that. You're not, this is not a sport of crybabies.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's we just want to feel good. We want to be strong. We want to be healthy. And when you're being told, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but I get really annoyed that somebody your age is going to be given, you're going to have a blood panel, and yours is going to be run through the same filter of somebody that's your age, that's fat, out of shape, hasn't exercised in 20 years, and the blood results are run through the same criteria of healthy, in range, out of range, whatever it may be. You don't feel good. You know you're in good shape. He's telling you 350 is fine. You're like, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That's very, very frustrating. And like you say, you go find somebody that listens to you.
And we've discussed this in previous shows. If you haven't seen all of them, go back and watch. But those things that will fix this, sleep and diet, which basically comes down to fats and protein.
Yep.
What else? What else can people do? Probably organic foods. What else could people do to naturally build up their testosterone and kind of get back on a good track?
Yeah, the first two are always going to be food, high quality fats, high quality protein, fruits and vegetables. Those are your easy carbs, if you will. You've got to get at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Try to push at least 2 hours of deep sleep. Try to keep that ratio between awake and deep sleep. Keep the awake time as close to 0. Keep your deep sleep as close to 2 hours as you can. Then start looking at load-bearing exercises like weightlifting, and it's almost seems contradicting, if you will, because weightlifting can be very strenuous on the body, but the body needs that load to stimulate the production of testosterone and all the other good hormones. But again, one without the other, Yeah,
and the more you stress the body, the more testosterone you burn.
But the more sleep and the more food you need. That's why I have such a hard time embracing the HIIT, high-intensity interval training, because from a textbook, absolutely agree with everything they say. I've been doing this for 38 years now. I've never had somebody report themselves to our clinic that says, hey, I'm getting enough food, I'm getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially for our listeners that have a family and they have a full-time job and we love to ride and it's just in our blood, we're not firing on all 8 cylinders, So for me to come in and say, yep, what you need is to be able to push that intensity scale, I have a hard time with that, not based on the concepts of HIIT training, but the ability
Based on
to
the realities
actually do it.
of
That's
life.
right.
Yeah.
It's like dynoing a motor and then saying, well, I'm only going to give you 8 of the 10 parts to make the rest of it run. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you don't have a foundation of food and sleep, why would you take on HIIT training?
Yeah, and we're so damn busy anymore. I'd be embarrassed to tell you how much I spent on DoorDash in the last month.
Absolutely.
So,
we understand.
We understand. You do the best you can. But
That's right.
It'll be 6 o'clock. My wife and I look at each other. She's like, are we going to make dinner? And I'm like, nope.
Not happening.
Absolutely not. Where are we ordering it from?
Well, and that's where you get back to that ROI. You get some good food that comes in, and then you can maybe take a shower, do foam rolling, or do something while the food's coming. You can eat it and get to bed an hour early. Now you've picked up an extra hour of sleep. It's a good ROI.
Yeah. Well, all right. There's lots more to unpack there. There's more information over at CompleteRacingSolutions.com. Go check that out. there's a ton of free content and also some packages you can purchase to be kind of plugged into your pipeline and get some more direct
Happy to
one-on-one.
help. Yep, always happy to help.
So check them out. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more MPH videos.